Well, it's that time again. The magic, the mystery, the myths of Dartmoor. Welcome once again to Spooky Lee's Historic Dartmoor.
Spooky Lee, Spooky Lee, Spooky Lee, Historic Dartmoor.
The places he goes, the things that he knows, he'll curl up your toes. He's Spooky Lee. The places he goes, the things that he knows, he'll curl up your toes. He's Spooky Lee. The places he goes, the things that he knows, he'll curl up your toes. He's Spooky Lee. He's Spooky Lee. He's Spooky Lee.
Historic Dartmoor.
So Lee, can you tell us what the legend is here then?
Well, we're here at Bowerman's Nose, which is very much in the centre of nothing really. It's a very quiet, remote area. The nearest village is Mannerton from here. And yes, there is a legend attached to this set of rocks here. You'll notice that the rocks do resemble a figure. We can make out the head with the large, desperate Dan chin, mouth, sticking out nose, and there's even an eye for you there as well. And the legend dates back many hundreds of years, and it's based on a man who was on horseback hunting with hounds, and as part of his rampaging through this countryside, he knocked over a witch's cauldron. Now, of course, the witch was angered by this, and so she turned herself into a hare and lured both the man and horse and the hounds into a bog. Sorry, Chris?
Can you explain what the bog is and that?
Well, the bog would have been down the bottom there, obviously very muddy ground, which the Bowerman fell into. And of course now he was at the witch's mercy, so the old hag turned him into stone, and there is the Bowerman.
So is there any other, stories about this bone, or is it just that witch, or is it like Romans, the day around, or medieval time?
Well, in medieval time, people probably would have used this as a landmark to navigate. Possibly even the Romans too. But certainly it's a very good legend, and witches on the moors, who'd have thought it? So, Chris, would you like to take a closer look?
Yeah, I think that would be nice, yeah. I think we should.
Excellent.
Lead the way, Lee. How the hell did the manager get down here?
Head, and that's a hell of a conch coming out, isn't it?
Yeah, is that his chin, is it?
Yeah.
That's his nose. What's all this then?
Oh, well, this would just be the trunk of the body. It's a shame we don't have arms, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Looks like a big chest piece.
So this would be for thousands and thousands of years, and this will be.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Till someone knocks it down or blows it up and that.
Yeah, that's going to weigh a few tons, isn't it? 'Cause it's solid granite.
It's coming out the ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is he dead then?
Very dead, yeah. Still, he's got a lovely view, hasn't he?
Yeah. You able to see all of Dartmoor and that. You think eyes can still go in there? Do you think you can still see when he's dead?
Well, perhaps he can, yeah. In the maybe in an afterlife.
They don't want people climbing it, do they?
No,
Why is
because where people are climbing and clambering on it, they're gradually eroding it.
Oh, can knock it down.
Yeah, they won't be able to push off the head part there, but they're gradually working away at the thing, and they're carrying on rubbing. Over time, that's going to wear away.
Oh, so it could fall down then.
Well, eventually, yeah.
And that could be a bit of history wasted then, couldn't
It
it?
would. It'd be a shame to lose this.
So Lee, where are we off to next then?
Well, our next port of call is the village of Buckland in the Moor.
Would you like to follow the way?
Historic Dartmoor.
So Lee, can you tell us why we're here then?
Well, we're here in the very tranquil village of Buckland in the Moor.
How old is this village as well?
Well, it's mentioned in the Domesday Book of 1086, so we know it's been here for certainly over 1,000 years. I'm sure well before that as well.
Why is this place separated from the outside world and that?
Well, yes, it certainly seems now, doesn't it, that it is a completely separate entity, as if it's never had anything to do with, for example, modern politics or anything to do with the modern world. But in fact, in 1922, a gentleman by the name of Captain Nelson was shot here by the IRA, which is quite an extraordinary thing, because you wouldn't imagine here to be a hotbed of assassination attempts.
Oh no, because as you look at it, it looks very old and it's from the outside world and you can't understand why it's here.
Yes, it's a very popular place to visit. It's certainly very tiny, but for example, those lovely cottages that we just had a look at there, it draws the tourists in.
Has there been any Morris dancers here and that, or?
Yes, the Morris dancers are here fairly regularly at Buckland.
So what about the medievals? Did the Romans ever see this place and that? Was there any witches, goblins?
Well, there would have been the usual mythology of Dartmoor, involving witches and I'm sure goblins as well. And yes, the Romans would have walked through here.
Did the Romans would the Romans ever seen this village before it was built, or do you think it was built after the Romans, or?
There probably would have been a small settlement here before the Romans arrived.
Okay.
A Saxon settlement.
So did the Saxons do you think the Saxons would have took this settlement, or?
Yes, whether by peaceful means or through actually attacking the original Celtic people here.
So we off to the church now?
Yes, we're going off to a very interesting church tower now, with a very interesting clock.
Okay.
Walk this way.
Historic Dartmoor.
So Lee, can you tell us why we're here now?
Well, it's a very interesting church here in Buckland in the Moor. It's of 12th century origins, and as you'll see, looking up at the clock face, instead of numbers, we have letters.
Oh, yeah. So can you tell us how old this church is then, Lee? Yeah?
Well, we think part of it dates back to the 900s. As often the case with these churches, they're often built upon, and originally they're very small, almost like wooden huts, but over the years they're gradually added upon.
So can you tell us why it's got letters there for us, please?
Well, as you will read up there, from the 9 going over to the 3,
Yeah.
it says "my dear," and then from the 8 going over to the 4, it says "mother." So it reads "my dear mother" altogether.
So can you explain why it's got that "my dear mother" then on there?
Well, there was a gentleman here who had some money by the name of William Whitley, and when his mother passed on, he decided to have this commissioned.
So he decided to have letters on there to his dear mother and that.
That's right, yes, it was really a tribute to her. And William Whitley's grave himself, he's lying over there. I think this is quite a nice story, really, because a lot of the historic Dartmoor is not just about the rocks and the interesting sights, it's actually about the people as well. And here we have a very endearing memory of a family.
Yeah. So also, was there any, like, do you think, when he built it and that, was it around the Roman times, or was it around the, you know, before, after the Romans, or the Saxons, or when the witches were around, or medieval?
It would have been really the beginnings of the medieval time, or a couple of hundred years before that. What we call the Dark Ages.
So it would have been after the Romans and all like that, or before the Romans?
Yes, because the Romans left in the early 5th century, so they were long gone by the time this
Does
was up.
Morris dancers ever come around here, or no? Like, I know they come to the village, they ever come down here as well?
Well, yes, funnily enough, they would be just over there. We've got the village hall, which for such a small place, it's a surprise there is a village hall here, but yes, that's where they would dance.
Okay. Would you like to take us to the next place then, Lee?
Yes, the next place we're going to is very different to here. It's Hembury Hill Fort, which is an Iron Age fort.
Okay. If you lead the way.
Historic Dartmoor.
So Lee, why have you brought us here for then?
Well, Chris, we're in the town of Buckfastleigh on the edge of the moors, and I thought I'd bring us here because we've come to the remains of a very interesting church with a very interesting history. As you will see, we've got these steps that take us up under the trees there through to the church, and the legend goes that these 196 steps were built so that the devil couldn't interfere with the building of the church, and so that's why it's so arduous to get up there.
So is church straight ahead, is it?
At the top of these steps we will find, yes, the remains of the church.
Should we go up and follow it?
Let's have a look. Yeah, that's right.
Is there any stories about this path then, Lee, or no?
Not so much about the path. No, more to do with the steps and the actual church that we're going to be looking at, and also a tomb as well.
Ooh.
But we'll be having a look at that shortly.
There's too many flies around here. And I don't stink because I had a shower this morning. So Lee, could you tell us any more stories about this church then, please?
Yes, I certainly can. As you can see, it's a pretty old church, going back, well, roughly 14th, 15th century. But the thing you do notice is, obviously, there's no roof.
Yeah. Do you know what happened to the roof?
There was an arson attack here in 1992, which was largely blamed on local Satanists, bearing in mind that there have been a few strange tales about this church over many years.
What I find it a bit racist that there's no mosques here, you know, where Muslims go and pray. Can you explain why there's no mosques around Dartmoor?
Well, I think it was decided that there probably weren't enough Muslims to justify the building of a mosque.
Is there any more of the stories that we should know about this church and why it's so special as well?
Yes, there certainly are. If you'd like to follow me, we're going to find a tomb, and it's a tomb in particular.
Okay, if you'd like to lead the way, Lee.
Let's head this way.
So Lee, can you tell us more about this tomb?
Yes, indeed. This is the tomb of Squire Richard Cabell, who lived in the 17th century. And the reason I've brought you here is that this is a marvellous example of how the superstitions of Dartmoor are still very much in evidence today. The story goes that this awful man of the local gentry, after his death, there were some ghostly happenings happening around his grave, and so the local villagers decided to get together and build a tomb around his grave, in the hope that that would keep any evil spirits contained within. But there have still been some strange happenings, and to this day, apparently the tomb is seen to glow red at night.
Does it do anything during the day or no? Does it just glow red at night and that?
Well, there's the usual stories of strange spectral figures wandering around the tomb, and strange noises, screams.
What kind of screams do you know exactly, or don't you know the screams?
Apparently they're high-pitched screams. We're not sure if they're male or female.
Could you tell us more about the saints, as why they did all this, why they burnt the church and, you know, put a tomb around this guy and all like that?
Well, it would appear that the death of this Cabell man and the stories that have erupted from that have actually attracted some people who do delve into devil worship. And as I said, quite possibly that the arsonists were devil worshippers. But then there's always been macabre happenings here. In the 19th century, this graveyard was very popular with body snatchers who would come in and take bodies away for money. In the 19th century, corpses were worth quite a bit of money because they were being used for medical science and for all sorts of different medical experience.
Could you go a bit more deeply in medical science of what they were actually using their bodies for? A bit more deep, if you can.
Well, essentially, they were taking out the organs and examining how the organs adapted to different stimuli. And actually, of course, it very much goes on to the old tales of Frankenstein and his monster, how they were taking different body parts and putting them together.
I think that's sick, opening them up and that.
Yes, it's pretty repulsive. However, if it helped our knowledge of medicine and the human body, then maybe it was a necessary, if very gruesome thing.
It'd be alright, Spooky Lee. Would you like to lead the way, Lee?
I certainly shall.
What are you doing?
I was testing it.
Testing it. Breaking it.
Is that how you move it, is it?
Oh, no.
Testing, testing.
Breaking. Is Lee going to get us lost again, Chris?
Yeah, I think he will. Well, he says the fort's up here, so it says signpost fort's up here, so I think the forts are up here. I wish you'd stop taking me up the hills though.
Yeah.
I'll sleep tonight.
Nearly there.
Horse coming down.
Scared, Chris?
No, because there's a rider with it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I am. Going up these hills.
Yeah, this is pretty much it here.
Oh.
Would have been a big wooden one.
That explains a lot of wood here then. So Lee, can you tell us where we are now?
Well, here we are at this 500-foot summit of gorse and bracken. This is the old site of the Iron Age hill fort at Hembury.
Can you explain why you've called it Iron Age Hill Fort?
Well, it would have been built between the year 50 to 700 BC. So it was produced in the Iron Age times.
Well, I don't want to be rude, but this looks like a load of jungle crap.
Certainly there's not that much to it now. But if you were to go back over 2,000 years ago, this would have been a hive of activity.
Is it a peaceful settlement that it used to be, or no?
Well, there's been various evidence to suggest that there were at times some warfare going on. But generally here, it was a defensive wooden structure with wooden or stone walls, and it would have been a community from which to trade.
If there was any wars here, then who would be fighting the wars if there was a war here now?
It would have been rival Iron Age tribes.
So Vikings then, would you say? Saxons, would they be involved or no?
Yes, they would have been when the Saxons arrived. Yes, they would have taken over the settlement itself.
What about the Romans? Would they have this settlement or no?
Almost certainly, yes, because the Romans had a habit of taking over what was already there. So there would have been effectively like a wooden fortification slap bang in the middle here, and yes, the Romans could well have taken that on.
Do you think many Romans lost, or many, when they've had battles here, do you think they've lost their lives here and that?
Yes, there would have been deaths over the years in warfare, and also deaths through punishment for people breaking laws.
Do you think Morris dancers would ever come here and celebrate what history it used to be here and that?
I think they've been known to on May Day. They've been known to come here and dance because it is a place of such history.
So is there any more like stories of history that you know about this place or no?
There isn't a great deal of written records, to be honest. You will always get your myths associated with somewhere like this, and sure there are of apparitions walking around at night dressed in the Iron Age style.
Would there be anyone else that would take over this settlement in the medieval times, you know, because like you said you had the Saxons, the Vikings, everyone taking over it. Do you think anyone in the medieval times would take over it or no?
Well, at that time it wasn't quite so important to hold a high hill structure such as this, and also the land wouldn't be ideal for growing goods for food either. Chris, would you like to take a walk around?
Yes, please, if that's all right with you.
This looks good.
Why don't they rebuild them again?
It's a very good question. They could rebuild them in the original style, and I'm sure there'd be plenty of people interested enough to come and look at them. It's a very good idea. I'm not sure why they don't do it.
These bushes must have been where they built walls and things and that.
Well, yeah, sometimes it can be a giveaway that there was a structure there previously, and there would have been lots of
Gates.
gates, huts, animals running around.
Looks dead now, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? It looks very dead. And certainly that wildlife has taken over. Where we are now, we're within Hembury Woods, and it's a place of great wildlife with the River Dart running through, and a biodiversity hotspot it's called. Oh, and here we have the famous ditches that are always associated with an Iron Age hill fort.
Yeah, he's got us lost again. We're in the Iron Forge, but we don't know where about the way out is.
Historic Dartmoor.
No, it's like diagonal from the woods where we've walked up.
What looking for, Chris?
Diagonal stones.
Diagonal stones.
Yeah. What about one of these lay around here?
It's just a stone row where there's not many other stones. You can clearly see it's been made as a proper line of them. And I think if we carry on going up there, yeah, I think that's a boundary that they'd worked out.
Alright. Is that the burial thingy? There's a standing stone in front of it. And there's some stones leading towards it. Yeah, there's a stone row. Yeah.
I think we should run there.
Oh yeah, this is where the boots might come in handy.
What's happening, Chris?
I think there's a big swamp here. Might not be able to get across.
Why haven't you crossed over yet, Chris?
Because there's a river there.
The river.
Yeah. So Lee, can you tell us where we are now?
Yes, we are now at the Drizzlecombe megalithic complex, which is part of the Upper Plym Valley area of historical interest.
What does megalithic mean?
It's to do with the dates. It means effectively thousands of years old, and we're looking between 1100 BC and 4000 BC.
So why are we here? So why is it so special about this place then?
Well, because we have here an excellent example of a stone row. Not only that, we have the moor's tallest menhir, the moor's tallest standing stone, up at the top there, and that's 4.3 metres high.
So what were the cane posts for then?
Well, these here are what's called terminal stones, which you will find at the end of some stone rows, and it shows that this place was of quite a bit of importance to whoever built it.
What kind of importance was it to the people?
Well, we suspect there was some kind of ceremonial use of these stones here. Maybe, just complete speculation, a form of marriage even. Two people walking along this avenue and making some form of spiritual bond together. That's just one piece of speculation though.
So is there any use for these stones here or no?
Well, these days they're just giving us a tantalising glimpse into the past. Another important thing about here though is that there's also a very interesting cairn at the top. So if we walk along this avenue, shall we go and have a look?
Yeah, I think we should. So Lee, tell me, would there be any would there been any burials around here or no?
Quite possibly, yes. The cairn where we're going to, it's possible that that was used as a burial site. But also, maybe originally, it may have been used as a navigational aid.
Navigation, like what? Navigation the pilots, navigation the medieval people or the Romans?
Well, for ancient man, if he was going from one place to another, he could use the navigational aid so that he could basically know where he was going, to give him a straight line distance to his destination, maybe.
Would the Greeks, if the Greeks did conquer England, do you think the Greeks used this if they conquered England?
Oh, I'm sure they would have used it for something. Certainly, and of course the early English church would have banned the use of this here.
Yeah.
Because they would have seen it as anti-Christian.
Has there been any bad luck here, like attacks or anything?
Well, where we're going to now, a couple of scouts in the 90s reported being attacked by a large cat.
Large cat?
So, to tie in with the beast of Dartmoor, the big cat,
Yeah.
certainly that was very anecdotal evidence that such a creature did or does exist.
So did they survive the big attack?
They did. They hid behind this cairn that we're arriving at now.
But you did say they were attacked by the can.
But by the cat.
Oh, by the cat. Oh.
The big cat, yes. There was only very little damage though.
Did they say what the cat did? Did the cat bite any of them or?
It tried to bite and claw them, the two scouts say. And of course we don't have any proof to back this up.
No.
But here we are at this quite magnificent looking cairn. It's 70 feet across, and so this makes it one of the more interesting sites on the moors.
Should we have a look inside?
Yes, of course there's no entrance that we could get through. And here we are.
So Lee, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, you may.
Did this look like it was burial ground or no?
It possibly was, yes, possibly was created to house the dead along with any of their goods.
So would you say if our queen and king dies, would you say they'll get buried here?
Well, these days the burial of royalty is very different, isn't it? They're in Westminster Abbey or such more grand buildings than this.
Oh, so they wouldn't get buried in stone piles like this, though?
These days they wouldn't know, but going back to megalithic times, important people would have been.
And so would, any beasts be buried here and that?
No, there may have been all sorts of creatures on top of the cairn at one time or another, but probably not deliberately buried within.
What about Morris dancers? Would they be buried here?
I think probably not Morris as we see it.
Ah.
But there would have, who knows, there could have been entertainers within a particular clan.
And do you think they would have danced around this clan or?
Yes, I would have used something that people knew about to dance around, as well as the maypoles.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for that, Lee.
That's fine. It's once again been an excellent episode, and thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your
very much.
questions.
It's okay.
Well, that's all we've got time for in this edition. Stay tuned, and hope to see you again sometime.
Bye.